Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my weekly real world experience gear talks. So today, I want to talk about a camera that I can relate to as being similar to last week's talk. This is the Nikon F100. I have photographed with this one a lot when I want to carry a film camera and shoot HP5 or Tri-X, but I want to shoot it in a camera that feels and works like a modern digital camera for quickness and accuracy. And right now this one has a 51.4 lens on it, and this camera is set up exactly like my digital D610. That's my go-to camera for regular photo projects on any given day. It's set up for back button focus and then point and shoot. It's got the same two wheels for aperture and shutter speed as the digital cameras do. It's got the regular automatic modes like an aperture, priority, shutter, program, and manual. I typically use this and the other camera on aperture priority. I know based on where I'm at what aperture I should use based on whether it's bright out, whether I want shallow depth of field, whether I can get away with shallow depth of field if it's too bright out. And then this camera becomes like a point and shoot. Now, for anybody who has read about Robert Frank, he was said to be able to just wave the camera and point it at something and shoot, and no one would even notice it. It was so fluid, it was so stealth. I would like to be that quick with a Leica, but I'm not. I can be that quick with this. I find that if there were a camera, you said shoot film and you have to be able to shoot on the quick. Well, between back button focus, and I also set up any of my autofocus cameras that I can. I don't set them up with 80 spots or 40 spots or 10,000 spots. I don't understand all the different focus zones that are trying to calculate what it thinks I want. I'll tell you what I want. And what I want is I want what I want in focus, so I use the center patch on all my autofocus. So I'm using a viewfinder, and I'll just look through the viewfinder, I'll back button focus, and then I'll shoot. And I'll have a photograph that I know is focused exactly where I want it. So if you want to be using my experience, don't buy into the how many autofocus spots are available, how many different autofocus zones. I just use the center one because I want control over it. And once you focus on it with back button focus, since the focus is no longer tied to your shutter speed, your shutter button, then when you go to shoot, it doesn't change focus on you. It doesn't refocus on you. So I like using back button focus for any kind of autofocus camera that I can, as opposed to shutter connected autofocus, because I always feel like it's possible that it'll refocus. And I want to separate those two. When I'm not hitting this back button focus, it's not refocusing for me, which is a good thing because I don't want it to refocus for me. I want it to do it the way I want it to do it. So I would say this is the easiest, most simple camera that you can use, and they're inexpensive. The F100 was one of the last models made right before digital came out. And the F100 is a motor's built in. It's kind of the baby brother to the Nikon F5 back in the day. And I think the Nikon F6 is considered the pinnacle of photography right now for Nikon, but they're $800 used and they're $1,500 or $1,600 new. This you can pick up for a couple $100. And to me, spend that extra money on film. You can buy a lot of HP5 if you spend less on the camera. And we'll even talk about at some point about processing your own film. If you see right behind me is the reels that I use to develop film. If you're shooting your own HP5 and you process it at home, it's pennies to process. It doesn't cost much. What costs much is driving your film somewhere, getting it out, driving back, paying for it. That's ridiculous. process your own black and white film. It's simple. And if you want a camera that can be so fluid, so quick, so instant, because it's just back button focus and shoot, with this on aperture priority, I usually keep it set for 2/3 of a stop overexposed because I want to err anything on the side of overexposure. If I'm pointing it at anything that could be fooling the meter, I'll just force it to shoot 2/3 of a stop overexposed. And I know I have something on the negative. I know that it's guaranteed to make a photograph. Back when I worked at a newspaper, I remember photographing with a camera, like an FM2, I think, and I was shooting an assignment, and the person I was photographing said, "Do you think it'll come out?" And I said, "It always comes out. The camera's working, the film is good, I know how to use it, why wouldn't it come out?" It's funny to think that people thought of film as some magical thing that maybe sometimes doesn't work, but it always works. It's film. It's very consistent. And if you want a camera that's going to be kind of a camera you can grab shots with, you can be very quick with. If you have children, if you have animals, anything that you want to photograph that moves a lot, this is the camera. It's inexpensive. It's built well. I highly recommend them. The Nikon F100. And from my own experience using it, I would say it's one of the most easy and pleasurable film cameras to use because it has autofocus and it's built like the modern digital cameras, except for the fact that it uses film. All right, that's today's photography talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon, and I'll be back next week. We'll talk another camera that I've used extensively. As always, here's the good light.